Doctor Who and Christmas specials go hand in hand. Well, more like went hand in hand, but let's not get into that. However, the incredible success of Series 1 led to a second Christmas special being commissioned even before the Christmas Invasion was watched by 9.84 million viewers on Christmas Day 2005. This 2006 special became The Runaway Bride, which sees the argumentative Donna Noble forced to team up with the Doctor on her wedding day to stop an alien threat from the beginning of the Earth itself. However, is this Christmas special a nice festive treat to wrap up Series 2? Or is it more like a climb down into the sewers to clean up the after effects of Grandad having too many Brussels sprouts with Christmas dinner? After the climactic end to Doomsday, the Doctor and Rose parted ways, but the episode ended on a sudden shock cliffhanger as the Doctor looks up to see a mysterious woman in a wedding dress standing in the TARDIS. Not only did this leave the episode on a good cliffhanger, but it also serves as a good segue into The Runaway Bride, which picks up straight after it. It's a really good way of linking the two stories together. The cold open of The Runaway Bride gives a good little explanation as to how Donna found herself on the TARDIS, but it also adds its own mystery, since it doesn't explain why she's there. It creates a good hook since the Doctor himself is trying to work out what's going on, leading to some good moments between the pair as he tries to find an answer to the situation. Donna's reaction to being in the TARDIS is really well done, with her having 3 separate shocks, being suddenly in a strange place with a strange man, finding out that this place is a spaceship in the middle of space, and then finding out this spaceship is just a small police box. I love how Donna reacts to the size of the TARDIS, with her freaking out and just trying to get away from it because it's too overwhelming. I think it's a good direction to take since we're so used to characters being excited by the TARDIS, but it's also scary, expanding on the culture shock Rose had when she first entered the TARDIS in Series 1. The TARDIS can't simply hop over to the church to return Donna to her wedding, so the pair have to try and find another way to get there, trying to hail taxis unsuccessfully in a good frantic and comedic sequence. There's a fun little moment where they get in a taxi but the Doctor doesn't have any money, but he asks if Donna has, even though she doesn't have any pockets, which is a nice recurring joke that plays into the ending.
Guess what I've got, Donna? Pockets.
In their search for transport, the Doctor spies some familiar faces, namely the robot Santas from the Christmas Invasion. Even though they didn't have an extended presence in the 2005 special, they were a memorable visual, so it makes a lot of sense to bring them back here, especially because they're a recognisable threat that immediately tells you Donna is in danger when she gets in a taxi driven by one. It's a good way to both call back to the last special and quickly establish a threat since you've seen them before. The robot Santa starts driving Donna the wrong way, locking her in the taxi, and she finds out it's a creepy looking robot. This leads to a really good little chase sequence as the Doctor uses the TARDIS to chase down the taxi to try and rescue Donna. It creates a nice visual, mixing the normality of a motorway with the weirdness of Doctor Who, even though the CGI of the TARDIS is a bit ropey. There's a good moment where the Doctor has to convince Donna to jump across into the TARDIS, and she asks whether Rose trusted the Doctor, with a subtle variation of the Doctor's theme playing in the background to add emotion to the moment and continue the running theme of addressing the fallout of Doomsday, exploring the Doctor dealing with the loss of Rose, which is the core of this story. The loss of Rose is dealt with really well in The Runaway Bride. Because it takes place directly after Doomsday, it has a lot of narrative potential, which is achieved well. Early in the episode, when Donna finds herself in the TARDIS, there is a sudden change in tone when she sees Rose's top and confronts the Doctor about it. It gives us a chance to see his grief at being reminded of what he lost, which becomes an undercurrent throughout. There's a good character moment between the Doctor and Donna after the motorway chase, with the pair sitting on a rooftop and the Doctor recalling spending Christmas Day with Rose, Jackie and Mickey, before drifting off as he once again remembers Rose is gone. It's like when everything reminds you of something or someone, which is a concept shown more obviously in the following scene in the wedding reception, where the Doctor sees a woman dancing who reminds him of Rose in New Earth. along with the background song being Love Don't Roam, which has lyrics expressly related to the pair and their separation. All of these scenes show how heartbroken the Doctor is, serving as a good contrast to his optimism and excitement during the Christmas invasion the year before. Even if you don't care for the Doctor and Rose's relationship, David Tennant's acting really sells you on the Doctor's emotional suffering. The wedding reception scenes are great, creating a really memorable sequence. Not only is there that brilliant line,
"Hello, I'm the Doctor."
They had the reception without me.
Yes, I gathered.
but there's also a lot of important plot development. The Doctor notices there's a wedding videographer who shows him the footage of Donna disappearing. I think the use of a wedding video as a plot device is a really creative way for the Doctor to work out what's going on, rather than the usual exposition or him scanning things. It also means the Doctor realises he and Donna have been tracked to the reception, leading to the robot Santas closing in an intimidating visual. We also get another Christmas tree based weapon, this time having bauble grenades rather than a spinning tree of death. It's a good way of building upon the 2005 special, much like the robot Santas themselves, who once again aren't the main villains of the story, since this time they're controlled by the Empress of the Racnoss. The Empress of the Racnoss is a real mixed bag in this episode. I like her initial introduction since they don't show all of her at once, just showing close-ups and shots from her behind as she lurks in her spaceship, watching events unfold from the shadows. It gives her a very evil mastermind feel, and her big reveal is wonderful, teleporting in to show off the amazing design, which is a great, giant prosthetic arachnid body. The design really makes her feel like a big time special villain, since it's a scale almost unseen before and realised better than any previous giant monster designs. It's great that the Doctor recognises the Racnoss and knows their history, making them seem really threatening and dangerous, but the monster is pretty much ruined when the Empress actually speaks. Actor Sarah Parish is given some absolutely cringe-inducing lines to deliver, and the voice she uses is similarly grating, although the clicking noises add a lot to the insectoid feel of the monster. The Empress of the Racnoss is somewhat entertainingly camp and bad, but the bad outweighs the good since she's a bit too over the top and her plan also makes very little sense. At some point 4.6 billion years ago, a Racnoss ship appeared in the solar system, becoming the very core of the Earth by being the gravity pulling the rocks and dust together. I do like this scene because it's quite educational, showing how planets are formed, and the visual is really good. The Empress of the Racnoss has returned to Earth to awaken her children who were on board the ship and somehow haven't starved over the course of 4 billion years. Torchwood has a nice handy hole drilled to the centre of the planet and has been creating huon particles which are somehow the key for unleashing the Racnoss children. Somehow, Donna's groom-to-be has been slowly poisoning her over the course of 6 months, so the Racnoss can use her in her plan. There are just so many plot holes with this plan, but I do like how they sell the effects of Lance's sudden betrayal and heel turn, as he reveals he's been working with the Racnoss all along. You really feel bad for Donna because all through the episode she's been gushing over Lance. She really does love him, but he was just using her for the huon particles. She doesn't instantly get over it when they escape in the TARDIS either, which means the pain of her heartbreak is furthered even more and feels realistic. The ending of The Runaway Bride is pretty good, with the Doctor returning to rescue Donna from the Racnoss, as the Racnoss ship descends upon London. Having it look like a Christmas star is good for the Christmas nature of the episode, although it does look a bit goofy, but showing the people on the street being attacked really shows the stakes of the threat. I like that the Doctor offers the Empress a second chance if she'll stop, showing that he doesn't want to destroy the Racnoss, even though they have a history. It's absolutely fantastic when he reveals that he's a Time Lord, with the Empress reeling away with disgust at the mere mention of Gallifrey. It really shows the weight of the Time Lords during the Russell T Davies era, furthering their mythos. The Doctor then uses the bauble grenades to blow open pipes to flood the underground base and drown the Racnoss into the centre of the Earth. The Doctor standing in flames watching the genocide is such a deservedly memorable visual, and it's such a great character moment that he doesn't know when to stop because of his grief, until Donna begs him to stop. The pair then escape to the surface where they see the Racnoss ship destroyed by tanks under the orders of a Mr. Saxon. It mirrors the destruction of the Sycorax in the Christmas invasion, showing humans taking things into their own hands and defending themselves. It's also a good introduction to the Harold Saxon plot thread of Series 3. The final scene of the episode is a good epilogue for the story, showing the after effects of the story, with Donna initially saying Lance deserved to die, but then admitting that he didn't. We then get something we've seen so many times before, as the Doctor offers to take Donna on board the TARDIS and travel with him, but then there's a nice subversion because she actually turns him down, which people never do in this situation. It makes sense because Donna has seen the consequences of the Doctor, seeing his deeper nature of being a dark, vengeful god at times. I really like how she insists that he needs to travel with someone for his own benefit.
Find someone.
I don't need anyone.
Yes, you do. Because sometimes I think you need someone to stop you.
Donna was a divisive character when she was introduced in this episode, especially because Catherine Tate was sort of stunt cast. But I think Donna creates a really good dynamic with the Doctor. Unlike Rose, Donna has a very abrasive and confrontational personality, making her quite unlikable, and it means the character dynamic centres around the conflict rather than the friendship. Within her first few minutes in the episode, she shouts at the Doctor and accuses him of drugging and kidnapping her, before calling him a Martian, a spaceman, and threatening to take him to court. The chemistry between David Tennant and Catherine Tate is absolutely perfect, adding so much to the episode, especially the character-based scene on the rooftop. Donna takes a much more sad tone here, lamenting missing her wedding and how her honeymoon is just a holiday. The rooftop scene is a great character moment for the pair, giving them moments to bond with one another over, and giving us more of a backstory for Donna, since she slept through the Sycorax invasion and was snorkeling in Spain during the Battle of Canary Wharf. We also get that great comedic flashback of Donna begging Lance to marry her, while she claims to the Doctor that Lance was the one begging her. This, along with her putting on the tears at the wedding reception, shows her manipulative and lying nature, making her a very different type of companion. There's even that great moment where Donna is taken away when the Doctor isn't looking, and he only realises she's gone because she's not actually saying anything for once. Even though there's a lot of conflict between the pair, Donna serves as a good plot device to drag the Doctor into action, even though he just wants to mope and be all sad about Rose. He still has that desire to help people in need, and Donna draws that out of him, even if it's unintentional. Donna saving him from himself is also an important moment because it shows that he does need someone else, and he can't travel alone, softening the Doctor for Martha in Series 3. The Runaway Bride is an episode with a lot of ups and downs. It's a fantastic coda and epilogue for Series 2, exploring the Doctor's loss of Rose effectively, and showing how it has affected him, but the actual plot is quite rickety and built on a house of plot cards. You only have to question one thing for it all to come tumbling down. However, there are a lot of positives. The comedy is mostly on point, including that great scene of the Doctor and Donna riding segways. The episode has a brilliant score, including what I believe is the first appearance of the track The Doctor Forever, which is one of my favourite tracks from the show. There's a lot of good world building and linking to episodes, such as the space surfboard extrapolated from Series 1, along with Torchwood owning H.C. Clements and having underground projects. It all creates a living and breathing world that feels lived in, since things are linked together. It really feels like a universe, since we see consequences of adventures and lingering effects. I think I'd give it a B on the Series 2 tier list, since the chemistry of David Tennant and Catherine Tate redeem the shaky plot and annoying villain. However, as a Christmas special, I think it deserves a C on the specials tier list, because it doesn't really feel as Christmassy as other specials, along with it being an episode better suited to being part of a series, rather than being standalone. But these two things make sense, because it originally started life as a Series 2 episode to air after Age of Steel, but was moved to being a special when Series 1's success led to a 2006 special being commissioned. So it makes sense that the episode wouldn't really feel like a Christmas special, because it was never really supposed to be one to start with. But all in all, it's a satisfying end to the Series 2 experience, wrapping things up well with an enjoyable adventure that you just have to switch your mind off to enjoy. It's a good bridge between Series 2 and 3, and oh boy, is Series 3 a whopper. I can't wait to get into that. And I'd like to give a special thank you to my gold level patrons, Steph Never Miller and Mark Hip Old Guy Taylor. Thank you a lot for your support.